Folks, and welcome to Live with Jeff, Jonny, and Lee. I've got both Jeff and Jonny up here. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Doing okay.
Glad to have you. Jonny?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well. Thank you. Doing much better than last week.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. So there's a lot going on in the world today, and we're going to try to cover as much of it as we can. If you have not heard yet, Ambassador Bolton, former ambassador, well, 3 search warrants were issued. One for his residence, the other for his office, and the third for his mustache in an attempt to find the documents that he had. I thought you'd like that. So, anyway,
His mustache, right?
yeah. So they have
Trump wanted him to shave it off the whole time, of course.
yeah. Well, it's that he'd have to have.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that.
He'd have to have
when
a-
I said off the cuff, just I guess
Yeah.
that's the way to do it.
He'd have to have a bush hog if you wanted to cut off his mustache. In fact, speaking of Bolton, have you seen the video of him in Qatar? Of him walking down the street in Qatar, Bolton?
No, I have not.
No.
Yeah, it's believed that he has been leaking some classified information, and
That was the basis for
who believes this? That he's been leaking
the FBI.
the FBI
the
does.
FBI. That was the FBI's probable cause for the warrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It doesn't. Who would he be? Who was he leaking it to?
It appears as though he may have been leaking some of it to foreign governments or to media outlets, plus the possibility of him leaking information to people outside of the White House of what was taking place inside the White House while he was in the White House. And
When
because
he
it's-
was working as national security
Yes,
advisor in the
yes.
first Trump administration.
Yes, sir. And
That's
so-
an interesting accusation against, he may be, in terms of foreign policy, of all the people that I've looked at, he may be the most sensible one of all of them. I mean, I can't think of anyone in Trump's first administration or even the Bush administration that was more sensible about policy. I don't agree with everything Bolton believed in. Bolton believed
Pompeo wasn't bad.
What's that?
Pompeo wasn't bad. He's got issues, but all things considered, I don't think he was that bad.
No, but I mean, look, he was at he made Gina Haspel his successor at CIA. That's bad.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yes, that's bad. That's
really
bad.
bad. I mean, the Russians joked from her being the CIA station chief in Azerbaijan that she was the torture lady, or they had a
Right.
more colorful name for her. I mean, no. There's something wrong with Pompeo. And I happen to know, I talked to someone that worked in the same office as he did earlier this year, and he's really gotten into trouble because his book, he put classified stuff in his book. And,
Oh, I don't doubt that.
That he wasn't supposed to, and he's in trouble over it. So he's violated the secrecy rule. He definitely violated. This is what they go after people for. But Pompeo, no, when you look at the record, Pompeo has a number of things that are a bit odd. He sounds good. He sounds really conservative. He seems to hate the right international actors that are against America. But no, Bolton seems more solid to me. And that's not saying much because they're all so crazy, right? I don't see a sane policy in the United States. Why don't we have? I'll give you an example. Bolton was the one guy who said we have to get out of the INF treaty, right? So what does the United States do? He gets us. It's Bolton that got us out of the intermediate range nuclear forces by putting it in Trump's head, and then Trump started saying it in front of reporters, and it sort of became reality. So that in August of 2019, I think it was, we got out of the INF treaty, which is important because the Russians are violating that treaty. They're building intermediate range missiles that are nuclear capable all over the place. So here, 2019, that's 5 years ago. So we get rid of them on the principle that we need this class of missile, right? We need to put them in. So Germany agreed, we're going to put cruise missiles, which are classified as in Germany, non-nuclear, right?
Of course.
What's the point of having an intermediate range nuclear missile that's not nuclear? I don't understand.
Right, yeah.
No. And then we had the Sentinel project. I was listening to the Senate Armed Services testimony with Defense Secretary Hegseth not long ago, and we're behind on our Sentinel project. That's our new development for our new defense systems, our new part of our nuclear triad, our deterrent. That's been lagging behind. Funding's not there. Our shipbuilding is in disarray. We're due to produce 2 destroyers by next year, and we're not going to make those targets.
Bolton was responsible for pushing George W. Bush to get rid of the ABM treaty, which was holding us back. And of course, this is where we built the interceptor system up in Alaska, and there's some launchers in California. But the problem is, this hits a missile with a missile. And we only have, when I talked to the head of NORAD, only 40 launchers, right? So this is lousy ABM defense, and it can't stop a hypersonic missile or a long-range Russian nuclear-armed cruise missile. So we get rid of the treaty, but we don't really make a defense when we have the opportunity to. And so we have when somebody really pushes hard to eliminate agreements we've made that are really against our own interest. Okay, we get rid of the agreement. Then we still don't do what's in our interest when we're free to do it.
No, we don't. And now you've got Putin, who's trying to push Trump into a new arms control agreement. The Russians say they want a new arms control agreement. Yeah. So
Yeah,
and
they want.
it'll just be we'll send a bunch of negotiators there to negotiate some deal, and then how it'll be. It'll be the Russians will say, "Oh yes, we're going to stick to all of our agreement. Yeah, everything will be fine." No, we won't break that. We won't violate that.
Well, the problem here is that we even negotiate agreements that aren't ratified by the Senate, but we keep them anyway, even though they're not solemn treaties. Obama did that. We keep agreements that are not ratified by the Senate that we shouldn't be keeping. And the Russians have gotten ahead. Oh, communism is dead. There's no more Cold War. It's like, really? Are you out of your minds? Are you watching what's happening?
I think. Is there anything else on Bolton? Because I would love to get to the clip that you sent me yesterday of the Venezuelan military.
Oh, yes.
I would love to get to that.
Before we leave,
Yeah, go ahead.
Bolton, there's one thing that Bolton has done that I'm glad he did. There used to be a warrant for my arrest from the ICC for aiding the U.S. military. And that warrant was against me for 7 years. So I couldn't go to a variety of different countries. In fact, when I went through France to get to Ukraine in 2014, they literally snuck me through the airport. They took me off of one plane, and as soon as the plane that was leaving for Kyiv was there before my aircraft arrived. And so when I arrived, and I only took carry-on luggage, I didn't take, because I was just taking military uniforms and cartons of cigarettes and a bunch of, how should we say, electronic devices. So I had that spread between my team. But when I came into the French airport, they literally met me at the gate and escorted me down the gate, or down the through the concourse to the Ukrainian plane, and put me on the Ukrainian plane immediately, so the French authorities wouldn't have the opportunity to catch me.
The International Criminal Court.
Yeah, the International Criminal Court.
What did you supposedly do that's so bad that
I designed weapon systems that were used in the Middle East and different things over there. And so the International Criminal Court issued a warrant against me, and I had a warrant against me for 7 years. I just tried to look it up. I couldn't find it on the internet anymore.
And Bolton got rid of that.
Bolton got rid of that warrant
There you
for
go.
me.
Yeah.
Under Trump, and Trump's first administration, he got rid of it.
That's but to take care of you as one person. I mean, his busy
That's
day being national security
Well,
advisor.
there was more than one. There were several of us, but I was part of that group. There was a group.
He also wanted to see justice for Scooter Libby too, which of course that was a horrible affair there.
So anyway, Bolton got rid of that warrant for me. So the scariest part of my trip, even with them blowing up the hotel in front of me, that I was supposed to be standing in when they blew it up. The scariest part of my trip was on the way back from Ukraine when I came in and landed in Paris and was sitting in the airport, and security kept walking around in the area where I was because that whole time I was sitting there, I had to sit there for like 4 hours. And the whole time I was sitting there, I was waiting for them to come arrest me in the airport. I mean, it was fucking nuts because the French have already said they would arrest me if they caught me in France. And so when I was there sitting in Paris, I can't remember what the name of the airport is, but anyway, when I was there sitting at
Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, Charles de Gaulle Airport. When I was sitting there in the airport, I kept seeing the French police walking around the area where I was at, going, which one of these guys is going to recognize me or pick me up? Because they know you're there. They know you came through their airport. So, yeah, that was the scariest part of the whole trip, was sitting there for 4 hours watching the French police keep eyeballing me while I was sitting there. But they let me go. They didn't arrest me. But that was the scariest part of the trip. I would prefer to be shot at because you can shoot back. But it was what they were going to do with you, because the French weren't going to keep you. They were going to send you to some Middle Eastern country and put you in a Middle Eastern prison so they can torture the shit out of you until your court date. That's what was going to happen. So that's the one thing that I do admire for John Bolton, is he had that warrant removed.
I would, when you're somebody who has been against America's enemies more consistently than any other, national security advisor that I know of in modern American history, when he's being investigated by the FBI, when his home is raided, when he is being accused of committing basically treason, I want to see the proof.
Well, the one thing he didn't do was, you're supposed to have, when you write a book, that book is supposed to be approved before you release it to the public.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
And
Yeah,
he
it's
didn't
supposed to
do
be.
that. He just printed the book and didn't let anybody review it.
Pompeo did that too.
Well, then they
but
ought to
I-
go see Pompeo.
But if you read the book, he doesn't really, there's nothing really classified in the book. He doesn't go into that kind of detail, as far as I can tell. I don't see anything that he doesn't reveal things like that. He talks about the daily policy making, which is pretty much, and what it was like to be in a room with Trump trying to make a decision, and how they arrived at decisions and how they argued amongst each other. And how those personalities worked. Now, that's all water under the bridge. It's all things that have happened. And of course, he has a certain sympathy with Pompeo and, some of the other leaders at the time. He depicts Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, is that his name? Am I saying it right? He depicts him in not so good a light. Mattis doesn't come out very good. The first defense secretary does not come out so good. And of course, Trump's son-in-law actually engaging in negotiations that would make, when Pompeo was Secretary of State, would make Pompeo go nuts. But they had some very strange ideas about, nobody agreed about Afghanistan what to do, and that was a very difficult issue, because you're stuck in this country, you're spending all this money, the country is not, you don't really have a way out. What do you do? And Trump was back and forth, and same thing with Syria, same thing with Iraq, same thing with all these places that we're stuck in. And that goes back to, George W. Bush invading Iraq, when Iraq was a counterbalance to Iran, and we probably needed it to stay that way and not take responsibility for that whole region with all the trillions that we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we wore out our military. That was the wrong thing when we had China and Russia building up to come after us. That was the wrong choice. But that choices were made.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Well, the one thing the biggest problem I have with the withdrawal from Afghanistan is leaving all of the equipment behind.
And the people.
Right. And the people, the dogs, who can believe that they left work dogs in kennels, left them locked in the kennel, just left them, put them in the kennel, left them there. So we didn't take the weapons, we didn't take the night vision, we didn't take the thermal weapon systems or thermal weapon sights, we didn't take
vehicles.
the chats computers, we didn't take any of that stuff. All the classified material, they just left it there.
You know, a collapse happens. You got the president of the country abandoning the country. And you have the most of the military in the country was Afghan, and they collapsed. So the Americans didn't have enough wherewithal. The Americans couldn't hold the country. And so it was a fiasco from start to finish.
Oh,
And once you get into that position, yeah, just like with Vietnam, although we tried to organize people, a lot of people did get out, but not enough. I mean, millions died when Cambodia and Vietnam collapsed in 1975, in end of April 75. And this is what we could see this again with Ukraine if we're not careful. And it could spread to the rest of Eastern Europe. It would spread to Europe. It could become a world war. And we've got Japan and we've got Taiwan. We've got all these countries. If they go, the impact on us, people think, oh, we're in America, we're not affected. Oh, yeah, you will be affected.
I've got a video that I want to send you guys. It's an interview with an officer on the battlefield in Ukraine. He's not a Ukrainian officer. He's a Russian military officer. And the interview is conducted by a guy I can't stand named Patrick Lancaster. He's from actually here in Texas. But during the interview, the older soldier that he is interviewing inside of a Ukrainian fortified position that the Ukrainians had lost, but they've now regained. They're inside of there, and this guy is saying, well, we're already in World War III. We're already fighting against NATO. They're going to come at us, and it's not going to stop until our flag is over top of the Reichstag in Berlin. They're planning on going all the way to Berlin. And this officer sits there and says it plainly. This is just the beginning. We're going to be in war for years. The war isn't going to be over until after 2027. We're going all the way to Berlin.
They're going all the way to Washington, D.C.
Well,
yes.
yeah.
Once they get to Lisbon, they're going to cross the channel. And then once they gobble up everything in the UK, they're going across the Atlantic.
And they'll come across the Pacific. That'll be their main invasion route. It's the Koreans and the Chinese and Russians can focus their power. The Russians can bring their northern fleet maybe through the Arctic. This is why are there so many Chinese icebreakers up there with the Russian ones? Why are they massing icebreakers in the Arctic? Is it because at some point they want to bring the Russian northern fleet, the largest part of the Russian fleet, into the Pacific?
And the Chinese are now claiming that they're an Arctic superpower somehow.
Yeah, it's very strange when they don't. They have no territory on the Arctic Circle. What is?
Just to throw this in here, are you guys aware that a drone hit in Estonia
Today?
Overnight?
It exploded?
Yep.
I did not hear that.
We have one of our members, and this is the great part about being on the KLW World News Network. We have members all over the world, and we have members in Estonia. We've got members on the Baltic. We've got members in the UK. We've got members all over the place. And one of our members just sent it to me a little bit ago, advising me that a drone has hit in southeastern Estonia and exploded.
Just like Poland.
Yeah, didn't Estonia close their airspace a few days ago when you and I were talking on the phone?
Yes, sir, they did. Funny how that happens, huh?
Yeah. We may have also run into a serious problem in terms of politics in Lithuania. Were you guys aware of the fact that they have a newly elected prime minister as of this morning?
No, I didn't follow that. What is this prime minister about?
She's a former labor union leader.
Oh.
I don't even want to begin to try and pronounce that name, but
they're difficult.
Yeah, her predecessor's was put in a resignation for corruption allegations. So it's funny how that happens, right? You get all these corruption allegations that show up, and then you get a far left leader in there somehow.
Is she
Yeah.
far left?
She's a labor union leader. I mean, you can't be a conservative labor union leader.
Yeah, what is her? But I mean, the thing is there's social democrats who hate Moscow. What is her views on Moscow?
I don't necessarily know that, but she has been praised as a, quote, constructive negotiator. Yeah. And she says that her focus is going to be on restoring stability. If that answers your question.
Restoring
and maintaining public trust.
As a Soviet republic, one can have stability.
Yeah. She's ahead of the coalition, and the coalition that she is ahead of has 82 of 141 seats.
Well, the country is not going to accept surrender, I don't think.
I don't think so.
So the politicians, just like Tusk in Poland, I don't trust him. I think the Russians have a hold on him. I think they might have a hold on this lady, but they can't go against their country. Their own bodyguards would turn on them. So you can't.
The Lithuanians
can't do.
Yeah, the Lithuanians over the last few years have started their own civilian militia. Were you aware of that? Were either of you aware of that?
Yes.
You mean their government started a militia?
Well, it's being coordinated at the local level.
Right.
So each one of the
yes.
That's good, but they still need a lot of work. Civilians are not soldiers. So.
Well, militias are in modern warfare, militias are almost useless.
Yeah.
They don't.
So.
They're very poor. They're good for maybe defending things against not very serious attacks.
And some sabotage.
Yeah, they can be used for security troops. Absolutely. They could be effective that way.
Yep.
Yeah. So, they're not complete. Given the lack of professionalism in the Russian army, maybe they can stop the Russians. Who knows?
It doesn't take, I was, if I was the Secretary of Defense and I wanted to stop the Russians, I would send the Girl Scouts.
Yeah, it's quite comical what the Russians, it's tragic, but what the Russians have done to their own troops and to launch attacks that are completely futile and ridiculous.
Some of the first things we saw in Ukraine, example of that, some of the first things we saw in Ukraine, you would see a squad run through a town, and then they would lay anti-tank mines in all the roads and key intersections in the town. And then a few hours later, a tank battalion would roll through, and they would drive over top their own anti-tank mines.
Oh, absolutely.
This is, well, everything's about communicating, isn't it? And people just don't do it.
Well, the Russians can't. The thing that people don't understand about the Russian military is it's not like the American military. The Russian military is like a group of different National Guard units that is supplied locally. So they don't have the same frequencies. They don't have the same radios. And every single one of them is like college football. They're rivalries. So the guys in this regiment don't like the guys in that regiment, and they won't come out on the battlefield and support their own guys. So if one unit is under attack and they call for support, the other unit's like, fuck them. We're not going to go protect them. They didn't do anything for us. And so they don't have standardization of communications equipment. They don't have standardization of weapon systems, clothing, any of that. There is upper echelon communications. So the big communications trucks you see with the microwaves to link back and forth, that's headquarters communications. That's, above battalion communications.
Of course, making these lower level units not able to communicate is very important to preventing them from revolting against the government.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's
if they
true.
can't communicate, they can't turn against Moscow.
Yeah, but Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was reading. There's a great book. I'm sorry it's out of print, but you can get it online. I believe Google Books has it. You can get it there, the PDF version of it. And I suggest if anyone's interested in this, because this book is still relevant. I have it on the shelf behind me. Jeff, you know the book, Soviet Military Strategy in Europe by Joseph Douglas. The book is fantastic. And I was watching when they went into Ukraine, and I'm reading this book at the same time, and I'm thinking to myself, they're doing exactly the same thing. They're doing all of this. And if you want to see what their tactics are, what their strategy is going to be for Europe, that book was printed in 1983, and it is still just as relevant today.
They haven't
because
changed
they're
anything.
following. They have not changed a damn thing
And
at all.
and the West follows the idea. I mean, we learned from the Germans, and we developed our own. The idea is that you give lower level units the initiative. You let them communicate. You let them be able to think for themselves. So you have your thinking soldiers, and you have people that you can solve the problem themselves. In the Russian military, there's no initiative. They're all afraid if they decide and the superior doesn't like it, they're in trouble. So they're not going to decide. They're going to wait for someone above them to decide. Well, they're waiting a long time, and nothing happens, and they lose the initiative. And this means that, and their leaders are not very good. They're higher level leaders. They're because they are under the same kind of problem. They don't want to be, it's in a bureaucracy. The thing is to CYA and to not take responsibility, because then you're the one that gets punished. So that system just does not really work very well. And when you highly centralize decision making, you have people making decisions about local situations that they don't understand the local situation, and the decision's all wrong. And the lower level people know it's wrong, and they have to follow the order even though they know it's wrong, because they dare not say anything.
Well, the
And that's
Russians,
a terrible system.
the Russians are, you see how abusive that they are to the Ukrainians. The crazy part about it is they're even more abusive to their own troops. I've seen so many videos of Russian commanders torturing their own men because their men didn't do something right. They have a form of torture called the tank, which is a large steel tank that they put Russian troops in who misbehave, and they leave them in this tank for 36, 48, 72 hours. No food, no water, and they're in there naked. The fact of the matter is 30% of the Russian troops who are put into the tank for punishment die in that tank. So, I mean, how can you have a form of, how should we say, correction or discipline that kills 30% of your troops that you discipline?
In World War II, they had something called penal battalions. And if someone committed an infraction, they would go into a penal battalion. And the purpose of a penal battalion was the NKVD troops with submachine guns would be behind them, and they were to advance into the enemy machine guns, artillery, and minefields, clear the minefields with their feet, absorb the enemy shells. And it seems to me that Russia has taken all the people in their society that they don't really care about, people who are poor, people who are not very bright, people who are from the countryside, the people who aren't the bright, tech people in Moscow and St. Petersburg, put them in the army and use them as cannon fodder. Use the Muslim minorities up. Use the people who are really low IQ and that don't have much wherewithal. Get rid of them from the society. They're doing, it's almost like a eugenics thing.
Yeah, it's a form of ethnic cleansing. And Putin, the regions that Putin is pulling troops from are regions that Putin doesn't like.
Yeah.
They're not pulling people out of St. Petersburg. They're not pulling people out of Moscow. Putin is only sending his troops in to get new meat waves from regions or oblasts that Putin doesn't like. He's the one that has made the decision where these soldiers will come from and where they will go in and do the mass recruiting. And it's already been proven that it's regions that Putin doesn't like that he's pulling these troops from. And they're already doing, like you're talking about on the penal battalions, they're already doing that. They're already forcing the troops to move forward. And as they move forward, if they try to retreat, the Russians will shoot them. Yeah. In fact, just the other day, a Russian troop wanted to surrender to a Ukrainian drone. And so the drone was leading him towards the Ukrainian troops because he had surrendered. The Russians saw that the soldier was surrendering, and they sent a drone and blew him up. Now, it didn't kill him, but it majorly injured him. And so the Russians fired on their own guy with a drone to prevent him from surrendering to the Ukrainian forces.
To your point about Putin pulling soldiers from and doing the mobilization from these other areas, this has caused a very serious economic problem for the Russians because you're pulling from your labor pool at that point. You know, you're taking away from, and a lot of this largely is coming from oil and gas extraction areas in the Far East. So that's taken away a lot from their resource manufacturing, resource extraction. So all of that has now caused another problem. You have people that are being called up and they're being offered these contracts for a lot of rubles, you know, a lot of money, and it pays more than what they're going to make in mining operations and extraction operations. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stay there? Are you going to take a chance and you're going to go and you're going to fight and you're going to send all that money back home to your family when they can live better than how they're living there in the area where they're trying to make a living and trying to survive? So is it better to go and take a chance with your life, you know, to go be a part of that meat grinder and send all that money back home? And that's what a lot of people are doing. Another thing this is causing, the breakdown in the economic structure. They're not producing enough to be able to pay their people. So this has caused a problem where a lot of these oil and gas extraction, they haven't been paid for almost a year in some cases. Now, how in the world are you supposed to survive when you don't get a paycheck for almost a year?
Some of them volunteer for the army because their money is good, but of course they never collect that because they end up getting killed before they can collect a paycheck. Yeah,
and the Russians don't pay the benefits if the body's not recovered, so they have no interest in recovering the body on top of it.
Yeah, last year I had breakfast with a man whose son was a missionary in Russia. Of course, his son had come back with his wife. They were in a small town in a very poor area, and he said that they left, of course, because the war had started, but almost all the young men in that village or town were already killed. And I don't know if it was the first year or two into the war when he came back exactly. I think it's after the war had been going for a year and a half. And I thought all of the young men, all of them were killed or missing, you know, which means they're killed because they leave the bodies in Ukraine. And he said it was just they were just devastated what they've done to themselves. Putin is a monster. He's a monster for his own people. And this is what people don't get. This is one of the things I've been reading John Bolton's book because this thing with the raid on his house, I thought, you know, I always meant to read it. And so I read it. And that's one thing he keeps saying in the book, you know, Trump will see something bad that Xi or Putin, you know, will do, or the Iranians or Erdogan in Turkey, some authoritarian leader will do bad things, and Trump will want to be their buddy. And then he'll see a bad thing. But he said, you know, Bolton says, if only Trump could really see who these people really are and stick with that, not wanting to be their buddy all the time. But it seems like Trump just does not have a moral compass when it comes to these kind of leaders. He can't really pronounce that they're evil, that they're bad when they are. And this is a problem. We have to have this clear moral vision about these people because this is what the ultimate thing behind all war is, a moral choice.
I was telling you about this last night, Jeff. I sent this over to you, Lee. I don't know if you've seen this yet. This is a decree that was signed by the Russian Prime Minister. It's on its way to Putin's desk. And it says, on the submission to the President of the Russian Federation for submission to the State Duma, the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation, of a proposal on the denunciation by the Russian Federation of the European Convention for the Prevention of Torture and inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment and the protocols thereto. They're looking to withdraw from this. I translated this, by the way. This is the official document. I just translated it so we could see it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, they're already using torture, but if they withdraw from it, they'll say they're not, you can't put us on charges. We're not part of that treaty.
Right. So we already know that they use their own little coercive measures, but but this is just making it official.
Yeah, the police in Russia use torture, so it's pretty common. I mean, it's a pretty medieval place in a lot of ways.
We saw an example of that last week when the police tried to apprehend a young man.
Oh, yes. Yes, you showed the video. That's right. We saw that. So about those Venezuelan mobilized troops.
Yes. Lee, do you have that video?
Which video?
The video of the Venezuelan soldiers saying that they're just waiting for Russia to give the order to move on the United States?
No, I don't have that. Send that to me.
You don't have that?
No.
Okay.
I've been busy watching this, and I'll do this while you send that to me.
Yeah, I will send that to you.
So I've got, just so you guys are aware of how I do this here at KLW World News, we pay for satellite tracking of military vessels. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is what we're tracking, and this is all of the vessels that are in the area, and the military vessels that have their AIS turned on. Now, the interesting part about this image is the fact of this vessel right here, which is SD-2014. This is an uncrewed surface vessel from the U.S. Navy. And so, as far as I know, this is the first time in history that the U.S. Navy has sent an uncrewed surface vessel into the area of operation to act as a bird dog, to say. And so this vessel has been operating here just south of the Dominican Republic and has been there for a couple days. Now, from the reports that I've gotten from a variety of different sources, including high-ranking military personnel, I did a broadcast last night that outlines all of the U.S. equipment, that has been deployed into this area. So we have 2 fast attack nuclear submarines down there. We've got 2 amphibious assault ships, like the Iwo Jima class. We've got 3 destroyers.
We've got 3 now.
Yeah. 3 what? Iwo Jimas or 3?
Sorry, you're right. 2 amphibious assault, 3 destroyers. No, you got
3 destroyers, Ollie Burke class. And we've got 2 E-2C Hawkeyes. Now, the other thing is, Iwo Jima class sometimes has Harriers, sometimes has F-35s. There are no F-35s in this endeavor. From what I understand, there's not a single F-35 down there. They're using Harriers for all of this. Also, they have loaded a buttload of Whiskey Cobras on that were brought down through specific locations that I'm not at liberty to discuss, but some of these vessels are heavily laden with additional aircraft, so much so that the lower decks of the ships are full, and the upper decks are so full there's not enough room to put another aircraft on. They literally will have to take off from where they are on the deck. There is no room to move those aircraft around. And there's over 4,000, the official report says 4,500 Marines. Our number in total says well over 6,500 Marines. And the other thing is that these vessels are set up for an amphibious assault. They are not set up for an ocean or sea interdiction. They're set up for an amphibious assault. And so we actually went and got the maps last night of all of these islands down through here. And we actually flew some of these islands last night in the flight simulator. And in fact, to even simulate it, I have an amphibious ready group out here in the Caribbean Sea that we can actually launch assaults from. So anytime they do an assault along the coast here, we'll actually be able to simulate it just like they do, because I've got Marine Corps helicopters, I've got Ospreys. In fact, that's the other thing. These vessels, which normally carry 10 Ospreys, each is carrying 22. So they have almost twice the normal number of ospreys on board as normal. The most interesting thing I've seen here is this ship from the Netherlands that has been operating here just north of Venezuela. And they've been doing that for the last 48 hours. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. And Johnny, did you send me that? Yeah, here, let me get that.
Yes, sir. It's in the chat. The 3 vessels in the Iwo Jima amphibious group are the Iwo Jima, the Fort Lauderdale, and the San Antonio.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And let me bring this over here. Which one do I want? Let me put this down here. That'll be good. And let me bring that up full screen for us so we can see that. And then the other thing, this is the flights operating in the area. We've had a bunch of C-17s flying stuff in down here to Colombia. And we've had ISR flights here operating along the western side of Venezuela here, keeping track of things going on. So that's been a little interesting to see what they've been flying around down there. Now, I'm going to play this video that you just sent me here.
Mi país nunca vas a intervenir. Mi país nunca vas a intervenir. Escucha, gringuito, ya estamos preparados. Escucha, gringuito, ya estamos preparados. Con armamento ruso te estamos esperando. Con armamento ruso te estamos esperando. Vente pa' acá, que lo que te viene es palo. Vente pa' acá, que lo que te viene es palo. Queremos tu bienestar latinoamericano. Queremos tu bienestar latinoamericano. No me importa dónde, no me importa si. No me importa dónde, no me importa si. Somos Caribe dispuestos a morir. Somos Caribe dispuestos a morir. La fuerza que tiene. La Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana. Ejército Bicentenario. Con mi país nunca vas a intervenir.
It's pretty clear, I think.
So the interesting part about that was, I don't know if you saw where Putin just said yesterday or the day before yesterday that he would back Venezuela in any conflict, that Russia would support the Venezuelans in any conflict against the United States. Don't know if you guys had seen that.
I had not seen that, but that's what we expect, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we've not gotten. We're still working on Cuba, but we've not gotten to Venezuela yet. But the Russians already have assets in Venezuela.
So
They're not
do
the only group operating
Iranians,
there.
so do the Chinese.
Exactly. Yeah, Hezbollah's operating out of Caracas down there. We've known that for years now, and that's not just me saying that. We've got Senate Armed Services testimony from our General of Southern Command, Laura Richardson, saying the same thing. That Hezbollah has been operating out of Caracas with the Russians, with the Chinese, along with the GRU and the FSB. They're all down there. It's Venezuela, Caracas in particular, is a Western outpost, if you will, just like Kaliningrad.
Let me get. I'm going to pull up my list. I have a list of. Oops. That's not where that's supposed to be. It's okay, but I have it here. So let me do this and that. So, what do we have going into the Caribbean Sea? The 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, or MEU, as part of the Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group, ARG, is currently deploying to Venezuela with the following ships. This report is based on the most recent information available. The flagship of the operation is the USS Iwo Jima LHD-7, a WASP-class amphibious assault ship, serving as the flagship for the ARG. It carries 2,200 Marines of the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, or MEU, and it carries a mix of aircraft like MV-22B Ospreys, CH-53 Super Stallions, and AV-8B Harriers. It's also capable of carrying F-35B Lightning IIs to support the Marine operations with landing craft and troop transport capabilities. Current loadout on this vessel is 6 AV-8B Harrier II attack aircraft. They are a short takeoff and landing jet made for close air support and strike missions. There are 4 AH-64WZ Super Cobra Viper attack helicopters that provide close-in fire support. Now, I have information that says that in addition to the standard loadout of the 4 Whiskey Cobras, there are a lot more Whiskey Cobras that have been loaded onto these vessels. So there is an overabundance of Whiskey Cobras in this particular mission. Additionally, they have 22 MV-22B Ospreys to support assault troops with a tilt rotor aircraft and are used for troop transport. Normally, there are only 12 MV-22s as opposed to 22 per ship. Additionally, they have 4 CH-53E Super Stallion heavy lift helicopters for heavy cargo and troop transports, and they have 4 UH-1Y Venom utility helicopters. That's a Huey for command and control and light transport. Additionally, the USS Gravely DDG-107, an Ollie Burke-class guided missile destroyer equipped with Aegis combat systems and Tomahawk cruise missiles. It deported from Mayport, Florida, and is positioned in the southern Caribbean near Venezuela for counter-drug operations. Additionally, the USS Jason Durham DDG-109, another Ollie Burke-class destroyer, is also there and equipped with Aegis systems and is deployed from Mayport as well and is operating in the same region. Additionally, the USS Sampson DDG-102, a third Ollie Burke-class destroyer, is reported leaving from the Panama area and is expected to be arriving in the Caribbean Venezuelan area today. The USS San Antonio LPD-17, a San Antonio-class amphibious transport dock ship, part of the Iwo Jima ARG, is also carrying additional Marines and equipment, and it is deploying alongside the USS Iwo Jima for amphibious operations and counter-narcotics efforts. And I love that, amphibious operations. What does that mean? That means you're going ashore, doesn't it?
Typically, yes. Yes, this is also being pushed as an operation against drug cartels, Latin American drug cartels. And I need to pull some. Footage.
Right.
If you just
Well,
bear
let me
with
finish
me.
up with the ships here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the USS Fort Lauderdale LPD-28, another San Antonio-class amphibious transport dock ship in the Iwo Jima ARG, supporting the 22nd MEU with troops, transport, landing craft capabilities, and is also in the southern Caribbean near Venezuela. Additionally, the USS Minneapolis St. Paul LCS-21, a Freedom-class littoral combat ship reported operating near Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, is also expected to join into the counter-drug operations. While not explicitly confirmed to be operating near the Venezuelan coast, it is suggested that it will be involved in the broader mission. I was told that this ship, which is capable of doing over 30 knots, was going to be brought in close to the shore along Venezuela. At least one nuclear-powered attack submarine, possibly one of the Los Angeles class, which are being retired, is going to be operating for in the international waters near Venezuela to support intelligence and surveillance operations. I was also advised that a Virginia-class submarine was also going to be deployed into the area, and operating there in that AOR, and that Virginia class was due to arrive, well, any time now. She was supposed to be there by this evening. There is also a report of an E2C Hawkeye, or excuse me, a pair of E2C Hawkeyes. They're going to be operating in the area for ISR along with other ISR aircraft. All deployed assets will be within the AOR and ready for operations by 8 p.m. this evening, Eastern Standard Time. So, as members of the KLW World News Network, KLW World News is requesting all hands on deck to report all information on the KLW World News Network on the Breaking News channel. So, we are bringing in our close to 400 members from around the world to provide real-time news and information about this, as well as other news going on. So, we'll have a lot for you. So, go ahead there, Jonny. You had something for us.
Yeah. So if we're going to be doing drug interdictions and dealing with drug cartels, Latin American drug cartels, just to give people an idea, this was taken from about a year ago. This was video sent to me from the U.S. Coast Guard. This is the kind of work that they do down there, and this type of craft that you're going to see here, this is, believe it or not, this is actually a submarine, but it doesn't dive completely under the water. Lee, you're familiar with these? You've
Yes,
seen
it's
them?
a
They just
semi-submersible.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the North Koreans actually use these, and they kidnap Japanese beachgoers, and they take them back to North Korea and hold them hostage for money. But this is just to give you an idea. This is the kind of interdiction that they normally do down there. But as you can see, this is not exactly. If you weren't paying attention to it, you probably wouldn't notice it if it's too far out.
Yeah, and this is exactly
this is kind of
what
they do.
a Triton is designed to look for.
Yeah,
Tritons.
yeah.
And,
Now, these things are pretty slick.
yeah. Yeah, you can't say the guys from the Coast Guard don't have balls. Look how they just jump off of that onto that thing.
Oh, I would too. I'd jump right on that damn thing and pop that hatch. You better believe it.
I love how the open up or I'll drop a grenade in.
That's right. There you go.
Thank you, sir. Jeff, you got anything you want to add there?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts what we're seeing. Pretty nuts. All right, what else do we want to cover? We want to talk about the drones. We talk about Russia. We've finished our first hour here.
I think we won't have to get into too much of this, but we're just now starting to see some of the numbers come in. But we're now tracking. I don't know if you knew this or not, Lee, but we're now tracking through these flight trackers that you got coming in. The reports are coming to me.
Yeah.
We're now tracking air traffic in the Far East that's headed to Kaliningrad.
Really?
And from the 777s, yeah. So we're tracking Anadyr, we're tracking Khabarovsk, we're tracking Vladivostok, Magadan, and some of the others. Specifically the places that are going into Kaliningrad. So we're going to be able to, very soon, we're going to start to see whether or not we've got an increase in flights from those areas, which I would assume that we do.
Wow. Yeah, I think we do as well.
So we still have 777s from the Far East going in there. I caught one going in there again this morning. It was delayed for 3 hours out of Moscow. It arrived from Anadyr last night. That's the one all the way out next to Alaska, that one.
Right.
And those things are coming in every other day now from out there. And I mean, what are they doing? They're moving the whole population of Anadyr into Kaliningrad? It's ridiculous. There's no way.
Right, yeah, there's no way there's that much.
There's no way. No.
That much.
So there's not, one of these planes can hold almost 500 people. So you're not moving all of those people over to Kaliningrad. It's just ridiculous. But I think it's got a lot to do with, as you say, when you come from another area, you have to go to Moscow to sign in. Isn't that what you said?
Right. And the interesting part that I've found here, and this is the map of KLW World News members around the world who are providing us with this intel. But But the numbers that we're seeing here are unbelievable as far as the number of troops that are being moved into Russia to fight Ukraine there. And I say that because we've gotten reports from people in South America that have sent their children to fight for Russia. And there's thousands and thousands of them that the Russians came in and said, look, we will pay you, thousands of dollars. We will pay you more per week than what you're now making in a year. And this is the promise that the Russians are making to these South Africans, that we're going to pay you more in a week than you're going to make in a year. So the South Africans are like, oh yeah, this is great. I'll go do that. I'll go fight for the Russians. Well, they
South
leave.
Americans or South Africans?
South Africans.
South Africans, okay.
Okay, people from Africa, Central and South Africa. As well, they're doing the same thing in South America also. But the interview that I was quoting from is South Africans. And so those South Africans, and it was a mother of a soldier who went and fought. I saw the interview the other day, and she said they came to our village and offered this to all of the young men. They all left. They all went to fight for Russia. They got to Russia. They went and got 2 days worth of training for Russia, and not a single member of that village has been heard from since. They've received no money. They've received no word, no nothing.
I was just getting ready to ask if the contract was paid out, but apparently not.
Yeah, nobody, and Russia is not responding. They've made multiple requests to Russia, asking Russia, hey, where are our sons? Where are our children? And the Russians have not responded in any way, shape, or form. So no money has been delivered, and no word has been given on the whereabouts or the health or wealth of the children. And the mother said, now I'm left raising his 3 children. He's gone. We haven't heard anything. He's been gone for months and hasn't heard a word. Also, the interesting thing I heard was the Chinese said the other day that they have no Chinese troops in Russia.
Really?
Can you say bullshit?
Oh, I can say that 1,000 times over.
Yeah. So the Russians are claiming they have no troops. Or excuse me, the Chinese are claiming they have 0 troops in Russia. I kind of find that hard to believe, considering I've seen them there. Hell, they marched in the parade.
Yes, the Japanese that do kabuki theater, isn't it? Not the Chinese, right?
Yeah. So it's been an interesting last 48 hours, to say the least, as far as the fake news that is coming out of Russia and China now.
So just a word on South America. So we were talking about the registration and the call-ups that are happening in Venezuela. So there's been Maduro has extended the registration campaign for the Bolivian militia. I don't know if either one of you had actually heard that. No. And they've got pop-up tent recruitment centers, and there are lines. Of course, we don't know if it's staged or if it's real, but they've the lines just go on and on and on. I've got a photo of some of that here, just really quickly, to give people an idea. So
you can be sure they're going to do things against anyone who doesn't do what they say.
They announced the extension of the census and enrollment campaign for the Bolivian National Militia on Friday and Saturday, and continued throughout the weekend. Registration centers were overcrowded on Saturday and Sunday across the country from north to south, east to west. And it will continue through Friday, August 29th, Saturday, August the 30th. So everyone is now told to answer the national call.
And because what they say the Americans are invading, or they're invading us.
They're saying the announcement comes amid the heightened tensions with the United States. Yeah. So
And this, I was just amazed at this giant body of Venezuelan troops. And what was interesting, the first rank, did you see the way they jumped up?
yes. Yeah.
These people were enthusiastic. And the fellow on the blowhorn, and he's saying, we're waiting for you, Russia, to give us the order to attack America. It's something to see. I think every American should see it, because we don't have 4.5 million people under arms in this country, although we could, I suppose. But given the militarization of the societies that you have, totalitarian dictators, Cuba, Russia, all these countries, yeah, the troops won't be worth much, but you look at how they flooded over our border and how the Chinese have been putting people on our border. And look at the riots in 2020 over the George Floyd business. This is communist organized. And Venezuela is a communist regime. Sorry, it's not a social democrat. It's not socialist. It's communist, in that it's aligned with China. It's aligned with Cuba. It's aligned with all the communist countries, North Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. Even if you don't want to believe they're communist, just like South Africa, the ruling ANC is a front for the Communist Party of South Africa. The communists are taking over everywhere, and they've got such a foothold in this country. It's not inconceivable that we could be crippled in a way, both politically, psychologically, and militarily, because nuclear weapons can cripple you, that would allow such a vast body of men to be used in a way that would hurt us.
I'd like to read something. I was referencing this book earlier. Jeff, you're familiar with this book? Yes, of course. I'm sure you have it.
Yeah.
I would recommend that everyone go and get a copy of this if you're able to. As I said, Google Books has it as a PDF. I believe it's free. If you can find a physical copy of it, obviously that's going to be better. But if you're looking for it, I was flipping through this, and on page 163, I'd like to read a passage of this, if you guys will permit me, because this goes to what you just said, Jeff. As quoted in the third edition of Marxism-Leninism on War in the Army, a new world war, which will take on an unprecedented destructive nature, and which will lead to the destruction of hundreds of millions of people, would not only accelerate, but would delay the transition of humanity to socialism. Without war, man will make the transition to socialism more rapidly and easily.
Yeah, they're blaming those of us that don't believe socialism works.
Yeah.
They're saying you guys are the cause of the war because you're not allowing socialism to naturally do its thing.
That's right. They don't care if they kill hundreds of millions of people in a nuclear world war.
No,
they don't care.
They don't really. No. This is the thing you see, because it's the Iron March of history. Look, Karl Marx said that communism might involve, civil wars, world wars, lasting, decades of just slaughter before you're going to be able to reach real communism. Engels said that whole races and classes of people would have to be exterminated to make way for socialism. And we know what Stalin actually did, and we know what Mao did. Mao is number one in the Guinness Book of World Records for being a mass murderer. The people that run China and Russia now are really the epigones or followers of Stalin and Mao. Whatever Putin pretends, wearing a cross and pretending to be a nationalist, he's a Stalinist, putting up statues of Stalin, wants to name Volgograd Stalingrad again. These people are really communists. And it's the same old cause, even though they can't get people to believe it, even though it's rotten to the core. This is what they are. This is the criminal ideology, an ideology that the leaders of it get their sense of self-affirmation by killing. As Eric Voegelin, the philosopher, the political philosopher, said decades ago, he said it's really, these are alienated people. There's a basic evil inside of them, and they get their sense of self from killing other people. And so it's an excuse for that killing. It's always how it evolves. Yeah.
One in which they turn it around and blame you for it.
Yes, of course.
Which is truly rich.
Yeah. Well, Stalin, Simona Pipko, who was I think she's ethnically Estonian. She was a lawyer in the Soviet Union. She was educated at Leningrad. She met Stalin when he came to lecture at their law class. She was a lawyer, Soviet lawyer. She worked with the KGB during her career in the USSR. And Stalin told them, he said, they're going to, he said, they're going to blame us for things. Always blame them for whatever they're blaming us for. Put them in the box, make them prosecuted for it. And this is the basic form of moral confusion that so many people on the left, it's capitalism, because people can see capitalism is not a utopia. Real life, the real world is not a utopia. There is no such thing as utopia. The world is always problematic. There's always injustices. There's always things that are unfair. So we got to have a revolution because there's something unfair. No, because you're never going to have that. Somebody's telling you that they're going to have that. They're lying to you. It's an excuse for killing. And we muddle through and we work the best we can with the system we have. This idea that you can have a revolution or you can change the system and make it perfect, that's idiotic. It's dangerous. And this is what it's all predicated on. That is the demagoguery of the mass murderer. Oh, the world's not perfect. We have to do something about it right now. And what does that end up being? It ends up being killing, making war, torturing, having an oppressive government, taking away people's freedom. That's how it works. And it's just a huge number of people just haven't got the memo, don't understand. That's how it works. That's why we need nuclear weapons, because they have them and they will use them on us because they're crazy. It's like the defector, GRU defector Colonel Stanislav Lunev told me when I said, well, are there any good people in Moscow or the Russian general staff? He looked at me like I was stupid and he said, no, these are not normal people. These are crazy persons. And then he began to lecture me on what a psychopath is and how all the leaders of this system are psychopaths. And you don't get promoted above a certain level unless you are a psychopath. And that's the problem when you read, the book Political Ponerology by a Polish psychologist who analyzed the communist Polish system with a bunch of other psychologists in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, is that they realized that the regime promotes and recognizes people who have psychopathic propensities, these alienated people, these, closet serial killers, only the regime allows them to torture and murder other people. And they promote it, they recognize each other and they promote each other, and they knew normal society would put them in jail and wouldn't allow them this freedom, let alone this power. But that's what that system enables. Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, and listen to the words of the Venezuelan soldiers that they want to come to America and kill Americans.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, we can't imagine it, but it's real. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. If they get the chance, they'll come here and kill Americans.
I think they're going to do that regardless.
Well, if they
Whether it's openly or
if they fail to reach a certain point, they won't be able to do it. But they have to be able to feel that they can get away with it. Remember, the psychopath, the killer, although psychopaths supposedly have less fear than normal people, they don't necessarily want to commit suicide.
I was thinking more they would retreat back into sponsored terrorism, carrying out covert acts with sponsor groups.
And they're doing that all the time.
Yeah. Suvorov talked about that in Spetsnaz when he said, you'll reach a point where you hit the gray terror. And these will be groups that will not be connected to the Soviet Union, but they will be.
If you take the defector Alexander Litvinenko seriously, he said that Al-Qaeda was gray terror, that Al-Qaeda was really run by agents of Moscow, that Ayman al-Zawahiri, who became the head of Al-Qaeda, was a longtime KGB agent. He's an Egyptian, I think he was a doctor, and he's connected to Sadat's assassination. So this testimony from someone from within the KGB structures in Russia saying that Russia was behind 9/11, was behind Al-Qaeda terrorism. This is very important to listen to these people. And Litvinenko was spectacularly assassinated with polonium-210. So this is something that people have to pay attention to. We haven't understood Afghanistan. We haven't understood how these factions and drug trafficking, the heroin trade in Afghanistan played into the GRU, what the GRU was doing there, and the fact that the Northern Alliance was a tool of the Russians all along, that we aligned with them, that Mohammad Fahim became the defense minister when Mohammad Karzai said, suggested Fahim was a Russian agent and the Russians were really controlling Afghanistan. And look at how it all turned out, how Afghanistan, we were talking about John Bolton and what really happened there. We've always been manipulated and maneuvered and fooled and bamboozled into making these missteps, which are enormously costly, trillions of dollars, lost opportunities. Where's the money now to rebuild? And the Russians are pushing on us, and the Chinese may start pushing soon, and the North Koreans.
And you mentioned Iraq. I would recommend people go back and read Shadow World by Robert Chandler. And he explains in there what happened before we went into Iraq. And we made no pursuits to go after that at all. They moved all of the weapons of mass destruction out before we went in.
Yeah, the number two general in Saddam Hussein's Air Force wrote a book about how they moved the WMDs out. They even took airliners and stripped the seats out of them to put everything into them and to move them, to airlift them to the Bekaa Valley and to Syria. Yeah, absolutely. So what were these chemical weapons that Assad was using on his opposition? They were probably from Saddam's stockpile, WMDs.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention he was dropping 55-gallon drums full of chlorine into communities in the middle of the night and killing thousands.
This is so vicious. This is just incredibly vicious. These people are evil, and we have to call evil evil. We have to call it what it is. Yeah.
Where did Assad go to when he left Syria? Again?
Moscow.
Oh, did he? Yeah. His wife, she
He's
fled
staying
the
at the
coup.
Four Seasons, by the way, in Moscow.
Is he at the Four Seasons?
Yes, he's at the Four Seasons in Moscow.
Probably forevermore now.
Yeah. They tried to get him with Novichok, but that didn't work. So his wife, his wife has fled. Came out that she was MI5. She's back in the UK now.
That's pretty funny. That's chocolate for the British. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was educated in England, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, he's he's a dentist. Really,
yeah.
He became a British dentist, I think.
Yeah, and now we've got Jelani, the former commander of Al Nusra, which was an Al Qaeda affiliated group. He's now all of a sudden the new leader of Syria. He's traded in his AK-47 for a Gucci suit, and you've got Sergei Lavrov a couple of weeks ago saying, no, we're going to continue to support Syria.
Of course.
So we got bamboozled again.
Yeah, well, when Syria fell, that it was the Russian troops and the Iranian troops that opened the way for the
coordinated pullout. Yeah.
They opened the flank so that it could be a change, because they realized this was a waste of resources to fight in the civil war, and they wanted Syria to be whole again, to use it. And they had to do this they had to do this maneuver. Same thing in Afghanistan, by the way, when Najibullah fell. The Mujahideen who took Kabul, if you look at all of those leaders, their backgrounds trace back to Moscow or the former Soviet Union. They were under the influence of those agents. And so the Northern Alliance, which was the remnant of them when the Taliban came along, they all did what? They got all their support from Moscow. And that was the original people that fell Najibullah. So you talk about the scissors strategy. Now the Russians are in control of both sides in these civil wars. Same thing in the Chechen, first and second Chechen wars in the 90s and early 2000s. It was General Grachev, the defense minister under Boris Yeltsin, who said, we're going to have an all-arms live-fire World War III exercise in the North Caucasus military district. So they have 2 Chechen wars. They test all their new weapons. What was it? Was it a live fire exercise? What was it?
Yeah. And who was the president of Russia during those wars?
Boris Yeltsin, and then Putin came in.
Yeah. And Patrushev was right alongside him.
He was the head of the FSB when they caught the FSB planning a bomb in Ryazan. Yeah. And they said it was sugar. It wasn't hexogen.
Right.
It was sugar.
That's right.
When they were just them. Yes.
Yeah. Patrushev, when they got caught, Patrushev actually had to go on RT and issue a public apology for it.
Yeah, that they
Yeah,
were stockpiling
yeah,
sugar in the
yeah,
basement of an
Yeah.
apartment building.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
It wasn't really explosives. Yeah.
The two soldiers, yeah, the two sol. This is. I mean, I was telling this to a buddy of mine. He said this is just crazy. But there were two Russian soldiers that were tasked to watch a building that had this hexogen in it, but they didn't know it was hexogen. They thought it was sugar, but they were told not to go into that building. It said whatever you do by their CO, they were told whatever you do, don't go into that building. You're not allowed to go into that building. So they said okay. Well, they were making tea later that evening. And they decided they wanted some sugar for their tea. So they thought, well, we'll just go in there and we'll just, we'll get a little bit.
Because they're Russians, they don't follow rules.
Right. So they go in there. This one soldier goes in there. He slips his bayonet into the bag, and then tips a little bit out into the tea. And then takes a drink of it. And he says, "That's not sugar." So of course, what did they do? They reported it, and their CO said, "You went into that building. Do you have any idea what you've done?" The next day, the entire squad got sent to the front in Chechnya.
They were probably set up to die.
Yeah, yeah,
Inconvenient witnesses.
yeah.
Yeah, I knew a lady in Moscow who knew the two agents that were sent into Ryazan. She knew them. She'd gone to school with them, and she started posting online, social media in Russia about them. And they were they tried to put her in a mental institution. She was able to get out of the country. I got some help for her, and she was able to get out of the country. But, yeah, you don't want to tell the truth or stumble into it because you're going to get yourself killed or put in a mental institution or in jail. So many have died, so many journalists, so many people talking, lawyers have gone to jail trying to find the truth. Investigators, people have died in plane crashes. Anna Politkovskaya got shot in the lift outside her house.
Windows.
Yeah.
Russians love windows.
Falling out of second floor windows or higher.
Those are free flight lessons without the use of an aircraft.
Yeah.
And so many
you guys shouldn't speak badly about Assad. Tulsi Gabbard said he was a good guy. He was just a doctor.
Yeah.
So
well, I have some
imagine
choice
that
words for her, too.
Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I want to jump in and show you guys something here real quick. If you look at the vessels operating in and around Venezuela, right here, this is the USCG medium endurance cutter, the Spencer. And the Spencer has been a little busy down there operating back and forth. And the interesting thing about the Spencer is it is the sister ship of the Campbell. Now, I took this photograph, and the reason I took this photograph was because years ago, when I used to develop innovative technology for military and government organizations, the Spencer and the Campbell are both experimental ships. So new technologies that come out that the Coast Guard wants to use are installed on these medium endurance cutters first. So when I created the boarding party system for the U.S. Coast Guard, and what I will do is, if I can get my mouse to work here properly, there I am, that skinny little bastard back in the day. This is when I used to install high-end surveillance equipment on Coast Guard vessels. And so we would put this equipment into CIC, which is the Combat Information Center. Now, this is one of my systems. This is the very first boarding party system for the U.S. Coast Guard. Now, the way this system works is this Coast Guardman goes on to the ship that is being boarded, and he broadcasts through this microwave antenna back to the Coast Guard cutter. Now, he gets cameras here. He has a color camera here. He has an infrared camera here. And then down here, he has a switch that he can flip back and forth because he has basically an endoscope. That's a camera on a flexi wire, and he can drill a hole in a bulkhead and stick that camera in and steer that camera around to look inside of that bulkhead. It has its own light source, and it allows that camera to look inside. So if you want to look into the floor, he just drills a hole in the floor, and he can stick that through, or he can stick it into a wall. He can stick it anywhere he wants, and the image is broadcast from him back into the CIC. And when it's broadcast from him back into CIC, this is where it comes in the CIC. Cameras are prohibited in this room. To take a photograph inside this room is a federal crime. We're not going to say where we were able to take this photograph, but it's illegal to take any pictures inside this room. This is what my system looks like installed into the console in CIC. This is the two separate receiver systems from the two separate boarding party members that come in. They come into a quadruplexer up here, which, just so you get an idea of how old this is a VCR. And they go into a quadruplexer, and they're displayed either one image at a time or all four at a time here. And then this feeds into a device called a Picasso phone, which actually takes that image, freezes it, digitizes it, and sends it out over HF. And then this is the new heads-up display that we designed for the U.S. military. So, long story short, since the Spencer is down there operating in the area, it appears to me as though they've got the best that the Coast Guard has to offer down there operating in the area, because the Spencer wouldn't be there if it wasn't. So that's the interesting part. So they've got, in addition to the autonomous ship, again, this is an uncrewed ship that the U.S. Navy has down there operating, and then the Spencer is also there. So they're not playing whatever they're doing. They have the best from the Coast Guard and the best from the Navy down there as we speak. So back to you guys.
I think that we have covered just about all of the most important topics of the day, I think.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think we have. Would have liked to shown that video of the Cuban soldiers, but Venezuelan soldiers.
We did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it. I didn't see it.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, it was up there.
Yeah.
It was up there.
It was up there.
Run it again. Run it again.
Run it again.
I will do that, and I will even.
I didn't. Evidently, my sound must have gone out.
Yeah, sorry. I will. Hold on a second. Let me move it over here.
Okay.
Intervenir. Escucha, gringuito, ya estamos preparados. Con armamento ruso te estamos esperando.
Do you need to hear some communist general barking orders like that in
well, I think if people
Spanish,
hear
really?
hear the enthusiasm, I think it's, even if it's in Spanish, not everybody speaks Spanish, but if they could hear it, I think it's worth hearing. And did you read what it is that he's saying in Spanish? What the guy with the blowhorn is saying? Yeah.
And I'm gonna share it with you right here.
Okay.
Con mi país nunca vas a intervenir. Escucha, gringuito, ya estamos preparados. Con armamento ruso te estamos esperando.
Like the Russian Romans we were waiting for.
Vente pa' acá, que lo que te viene es malo. Queremos tu bienestar latinoamericano. No me importa dónde, no me importa si. Somos Caribe dispuestos a morir. Somos Caribe dispuestos a morir. La fuerza que tiene. La Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana. Ejército Bicentenario.
I think you can see how they jump up there at the end. That says something else. Yeah.
We couldn't hear what you were saying during it because it was so loud, but.
Yeah, it was loud. I was just saying in English what it was they were saying in Spanish. We're waiting for that Russian moment, We're waiting for that Russian moment. What does that mean? Where are they getting this from? Who is feeding them this?
The
Russian
Russians.
moment.
Moscow.
Yeah. Moscow, of course.
That's where it's coming from.
You know,
They're
this
not.
is the thing.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's Venezuela. It doesn't matter if it's Cuba. It doesn't matter if it's Iran or one of the others in the orbit. They're not going to go without a say-so from Moscow. They're just not going to do it.
No, because it's Moscow is the general staff of the communist movement worldwide. It still is. It always has been. And that's what they got to understand. There's not this rivalry between Russia and China that they all dream about. This thing is a new religion. It's a new form of religion.
Let me get rid of this.
It's standard policy right now. The official policy of the administration is it's the fault of the previous administration that Russia and China are together, which we know that's complete hogwash. That's bull.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people would like another recommendation on a book, and we've mentioned this here before, I would recommend this, New Lies for Old by Anatoly Golitsyn. He lays this out. He wrote this in, was it 84? He wrote this?
It was written in 82, 83, and it was published in 84.
Yeah, this book, he explains, no, the Sino-Soviet split was a fake, and they're really working together. You're going to see all of these things that are going to happen. He's got a 97% accuracy.
Almost 94%. He's got
94.
139 falsifiable predictions.
Yeah.
And by 1994, about almost 94% became true, and of course, more are coming true now, especially about Russia and China being together.
Yeah, and he lays out specifically in here. He says you're going to see this strategy upon its completion. You're going to see it come together in the end as one clenched fist. You're going to see China and Russia together, and we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
Putin has said that he's going to place Resnik missiles in Venezuela.
In Venezuela?
Yeah.
We knew they were going to Belarus. When did he say they were going to Venezuela?
This week.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, he did say they're going into serial production. So if he says that they're going to place them in Venezuela, that means they're already there.
Yep.
And of course, there are Russian troops in Venezuela and Chinese troops there.
Absolutely. In fact, we flew last night in the flight simulator. We flew the Russian military base. They've got so many fucking tanks down there. They're lined up on the sides of the streets.
Yeah, if people want to understand, the Monroe Doctrine needs to be a real thing again. We can't have these people in our hemisphere. If people want to know why they've been prosperous and why their life has been so good, it's because we've had two oceans around us and we haven't allowed anything like this to happen in our hemisphere. Now we've got people in our own hemisphere that can destroy us from behind.
Our General Southcom has been saying for years, she just wants resources. She's not asking for money.
General Laura Richardson.
Richardson, yeah. She's not asking for money, right? Because she knows she's not going to get it. She's asking for resources. She's asking, look, can I give these people a Jeep? Can I give them a couple of helicopters? What do we have that we can give them? Can I give them a pickup truck or 5 or 6 or 7 pickup trucks? Whatever they need. These are our allies. We need to be supplying them with resources because Russia and China are taking over Latin America. And we can't even get that to them. There's your Monroe Doctrine. It's non-existent. No,
and this is because of the Cultural Revolution here in the U.S., that they brought these communist ideas into the universities, Marcuse and Angela Davis and critical theory, critical race theory, all the rest of it. They've really taken over here to the extent to where our own ability to defend ourselves from totalitarian socialism has been crippled. And the right now wants to attack our own institutions and side with Russia, the MAGA Vatniks. So this is a problem. I don't know. This is the worst thing I could imagine have happened. I can't even imagine it being this bad.
And I forgot to mention that the Mexican military is now supporting the Venezuelan military, and the Mexican Air Force is already operating out of Venezuela.
Of course they are.
Yeah, and there's a real problem because Mexico's right on our border.
Yep.
And how many Venezuelan troops could be moved to Mexico?
Oh, well, we've already got Venezuelan troops in the U.S.
Oh, yeah, that gang. that they found.
Yeah,
It's
MS-13.
Tren de Agua, yeah.
the one that's setting up camp not far from our missile bases from the
Right.
ICBM
Yes.
fields.
That's the one.
Yeah, isn't that funny how they're doing that? And the Chinese, Mr. Wang of Luda Media, he's a Chinese defector, worked in, I believe, the communication centers of the People's Liberation Army. He's had sources in there, and he says their order, what was it, a year ago, February, he told me, they put out the order, China wants to infiltrate 250,000 PLA troops into the United States as illegal aliens. This is what they want to do. Now, how many do they have? He doesn't know.
More
We
than
don't
that.
know, but we know that's been happening, right? So it's an infiltration invasion of the
Yeah,
U.S.
look at what they're buying up. Look at all the assets that the Chinese are buying up
The
in
wind
the US.
farms, the wind farms.
The wind farms, the solar farms, they were out there at, where was it, Lee? Can you pull the map? That'd be a good talking point right now. Can you pull the map of Sunspot out in, next to Holloman
Yeah, hold on.
to show what they did out there?
Yeah, I did a whole show about that.
Yeah, that's an important thing, considering where it was. That was a very, very smart strategic move on their part.
Was that the 10,000-foot runway they were building?
No, that was in Texas.
Yeah, that was in
this,
Texas.
Yeah, this was something else. This was one of those solar places, solar farms that they didn't build anything on, and they had, perfect view of
It's
White Sands.
it's a solar
missile test range.
observatory.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
what it is.
yeah, but they weren't using it for that. So you can explain what they did and show that to get the 3D view of where they were.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm taking us there.
In the
as
meantime,
we speak.
Yeah, in the meantime, they're going around. I was showing you the place in New Hampshire they bought up. The school supply store next to a military airfield.
Yeah. So this is
here we go.
This is Sunspot. So this is a solar observatory. Okay, and they keep this slit towards the sun, and this is a really tall structure here. Okay, and then they have another observatory here. Then right here, they have another observatory, but this observatory overlooks Holloman Air Force Base. It also overlooks White Sands, New Mexico. And so there's White Sands Missile Range. Here's White Sands Missile Park. Okay? All of this down here is White Sands. All of this up here is Holloman. Okay? And so fighter jets and from the U.S. F-35s, other aircraft, and missile tests take place all up and down this valley right here. Well, what did the Chinese do? The Chinese sent a solar physicist, or supposed solar physicist, to this building right here. And on that building, they installed a broadband SDR receiver that streamed live data from all of the experiments. The missile launches, the fighter jets, the surveillance, everything. That broadband spectrum analyzer was streaming all of that straight to China. And so I actually went out to Sunspot and did a live broadcast from right here showing the antenna, or where the antenna was, that the Chinese had installed to monitor all of this information being transmitted out of White Sands. And the FBI to this day has yet to admit to what transpired there. The way I know is I know people that work there. And they told us what happened. So I went out there and spent a day at Sunspot to do a story about it. That was last year that I went out. So welcome to the Chinese building facilities right beside our military bases and monitoring all of the communications in real time and sending it back to China in real time, just like they do with the DJI drones. People don't realize, the government goes, oh, well, we got the drone and we took the card out of it. Too fucking late. A DJI drone links through your cell phone to China as soon as you turn it on. And it's taking a photograph and sending it to China every second that you are flying that drone. So China has real imagery from every DJI drone and also has imagery from every DJI camera. So if you have an Insta360 or any of the other high-end cameras that DJI has, that imagery, because you have to use their software, goes to China. Welcome aboard. So anything you guys want to add to that?
No, that's too rich just in and of itself.
So, all right, gentlemen, it has been, as usual, a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you guys again on Thursday. I'm sure things will start to get spicy by then. I was told that the U.S. would not start any operations towards Venezuela until Thursday. So even though they're there today, nobody's going to do anything until Thursday at the earliest. So, should be pretty interesting this weekend. All right. Well, folks, Jeff, did you have something you want to add?
No.
Okay. All right, folks, thank you for joining us again for another exciting episode of Live with Jeff, Jonny, and Lee. We will be back again on Thursday for yet another episode of The Intelligence That You Can't Get Anywhere Else. So with that, I'm going to end this broadcast. We're going to come back with a war watch of what's going on in Venezuela, but that will be after I do a live broadcast with one of the J6ers. Thanks for being here. We'll see you the next time.
That's all, folks.